This next one, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Daniel in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Hello there, Jim and Brian. Hope all is well. Recently, Sportster has released a list of AEW wrestlers and their weaknesses. I thought Jim would enjoy commentating on this, since it's observations he has been making since the beginning. And I have a list here. Have you seen this list?
I have not seen this list. No, has it been in Funk and Wagnall's porch since noon today in a mayonnaise jar?
It has not, but this is a list from Sportster, a site of ill repute, or actually I don't know what repute it has, but 10 great AEW wrestlers and their biggest weaknesses. So how about this? I'll name the wrestler, you tell me what the weakness is, the biggest weakness.
Okay.
Number 10, Cody Rhodes.
His ego.
I think maybe you got it. Playing a babyface. There have been few moments in Cody Rhodes' career where he's been able to be a babyface, but it has never been something that has come naturally to him. He played a heel in WWE for the majority of his career for a reason. But in AEW, he has tried to force the idea that he is an American hero following in his father's footsteps. It hasn't connected with the audience, and they have let him know. His pro-American promos during his feud with Anthony Ogogo fell very flat and really hurt him as a talent. He is a natural heel, and that's something he's great at. Being a babyface just doesn't seem to work for him.
Well, I don't know that it's not that he can't be a babyface, or just that for whatever reason, whether it's the start and stop, come and go booking whenever he gets a gig that he wants more, like a reality show or a game show, or whether it's his almost universally dislikable wife trying to shoehorn herself into things that she's not prepared for or wanted in. I mean, you know, she was a babyface, then she was a heel, then she had a faction, then she didn't, then she's peeking in the window at everything going on, and all of those things. The fans of AEW like the other vice presidents because at least they're all in and they're all there. But Cody comes and goes if he's not got something else better to do in their mind. I think that's all part of it. He could be a good baby face with somebody booking him like one and, not giving him a retinue of minions led by his wife that nobody wants to see on television.
Number 9, Chris Jericho. Biggest weakness.
Jesus, the carbs.
The commentary.
I don't think his commentary is worse than his conditioning. I mean, my God, his upper body is as thick as Dick the Bruiser's was in the 80s.
On the topic of commentary, it says here, this isn't something he has excelled at so far. Jericho tends to be very loud when he's behind the desk. It is something that makes watching the matches quite distracting, as he is often screaming to hype up even the smallest of moments, rather than allowing things to build naturally. And I agree with that 100%.
Well, yeah, but remember when the show first started and he'd do color, it was fun because he was a heel and he was being a heel. And there wasn't a lot else to look at anyway. But now he's a babyface. It's 2 years later, and he's doing the same shit. And it's just it's not as good.
Hey, listen, everyone who was a Van Halen fan or otherwise even loved the David Lee Roth interview. He was quick, he was funny, he was clever. And then he got a radio show, and you realize there's too much Dave. And I think it's the same thing with Jericho. But Jim, number 8, what is Darby Allin's biggest weakness?
His size.
I thought you may have gotten this one, but actually, according to Sportster, and what do you know, promos.
Well, I didn't even think that deep about that, because I'm just thinking if Darby Allin was 40 pounds heavier, he would be one of the top baby faces in the business. But that's another thing, yes, is that he doesn't, if he does speak, which is intermittently, he speaks like he's cruising on Lake Havasoma. Like a lot of like Jungle Boy. They just got no oomph.
All right, well, for the next one, number 7, what is the biggest weakness? And remember, this is a family show of Kenny Omega.
Oh, where do I start? The fact that he thinks that he's the greatest wrestling artist in the world and he's really a self-trained, prissy-prancing dipshit, could that possibly be it?
The correct answer? Promos. Jim, what is Orange Cassidy's biggest weakness?
Jesus. Well, I don't know whether it's his weakness or whether it was his parents' weakness or not, because they must have fucked in a flower bed because he's a bloomin' idiot.
I think you got this one. His biggest weakness is being serious.
There you go.
He is so relaxed and chilled out that seeing him attempt to fire up or be aggressive just doesn't connect. This is something that is actually limiting his character at the moment, as he's not able to break through into the next level where his in-ring work belongs.
Well, he's not going to break through to any level past where he's at right now because he's established to people that he's a phony fucking comedian that's not funny. And for people who like phony fucking comedy that's not funny, they like him. And for people who don't, they ain't going to start. So it is what it is right now, because it's the same joke being told every week for years now. And it's old.
Number 5, Jim, according to the Sportster, what is Lance Archer's biggest weakness?
You know, I can't help but think they could have got more out of Lance if, from the start, instead of giving him a manager that was bigger, at least around, than he is, and is tall, and never interferes, can't physically interfere, and it was one of the greatest interviews in wrestling, but can't do an interview as a manager to save his life because it's a different art. And then having Lance be competitive with all the midgets, including Dwarf Dong Sucker, and then burying him by having him allegedly assault and throw around camera people and, crew minions that just wouldn't ever happen in that way anywhere on the face of the earth. He's he's got good size. He can work. He's been around. He could probably talk a little bit if they'd let him. The only problem I have with his matches usually is he does that goddamn walk the rope moonsault in every match, and it's obvious cooperation. But otherwise than that, I think it's the way he's been booked and presented. I don't know. What do they say?
I think you kind of got this one in a sense, and we've talked about it in the past, but according to them, the biggest weakness is his ability to remain a heel or a babyface.
Well, that's part of the booking. Yeah, whose side is he on? He's willy-nilly beating people up one week, and the next week he's saving people, and he likes this guy, and then he don't like. You can't tell. It's he's just been presented as back and forth, and what the fuck's going on? Oh, let's stick Archer in there. Whatever.
What is the biggest weakness of Jon Moxley?
He doesn't know how to have a fucking more than one kind of match, and it's a garbage match. He's fixated and has a fetish for these deathmatch garbage pieces of shit like the bank-addicted drug robber, and he's been lucky enough to get a job with the two biggest companies in the United States in the last 20 years and still wants to go out to fucking barns and pig pens and stick thumbtacks in himself with the rest of this trash for even a little bit of money, but certainly not as much as he makes with his main jobs, which he ought to be taking care of, but instead he's out fostering relationships with garbage people and garbage promotions around the world. So how many of those are a weakness?
According to the Sportster, it's character development. Everything has been about him being a crazed person who is slightly unhinged and will do whatever he wants. While this has been entertaining at times, it would be nice to see his character develop beyond just that, which is what his biggest weak spot is at the moment. Jim,
Jeff, have I mentioned lately how much I hate the word character and how his character will develop? And even guys in the business are now saying character. And it's just preposterous.
Maybe they're talking about his character, not his character on air, but his personal integrity, his personal character.
His moral turpitude.
That's right. His character still needs to develop. He's an immature young man. Jim, number 3, what is the biggest weakness of Brian Cage?
Wow, he's got to get his shit in. He's a fucking bodybuilding beast that tries to wrestle like a cruiserweight. He's another of these modern guys that can't get the picture of what wrestling really is, and he just wants to do cool moves. And maybe it's, he gained 80 pounds in 3 years, so maybe it's the supplements that's affected his mind, or maybe his wife tried to get him fired by bitching about the way he's been booked. Maybe that's weighing on him heavily. That's a detriment. I don't know. He works like a robot, and he's a giant beast that you could do something with if he could figure out how to work like a giant beast instead of wanting to do cool shit because it's fun. He's a fucking hobby pro wrestler. He's not in it to make money and be a business. He likes doing it. It's like collecting stamps.
The correct answer is charisma.
Well, there you go. You could have saved me some time there. He has nothing. He's a robot.
Number 2, again, family program. What is the biggest weakness of the Young Bucks?
Again,
according to Sportster, not according to Jim Cornette.
Well, no, you asked me a question. I'm answering.
Okay,
if they get my answer, I'm giving the right answer. If they come close to it, then what is not the weakness of the Young Bucks? Their interviews are annoying in a bad way. They look like middle school children. They do the cartoon style of over-the-top sports entertainment wrestling where nobody sells anything and it's all just it looks like a video game because that's what they're trying for. I honestly can't. What is a positive? They have 2 arms and 2 legs. They got the proper number of fingers and toes. Their blood pressure's okay. I can't see a positive as relates to the professional wrestling industry for those two to be in it.
Their biggest weakness, following rules.
Well, there you go. We just talked about that about 15, 20 minutes ago.
The lack of rule following hurts their matches and makes the officials look stupid, which then damages.
Oh, they're talking about the rules in the matches. I thought they were talking about the rules of wrestling, such as don't hit people with 17 finishes and don't cover them, things like that. But they're talking about the actual rules of the matches.
That's right. Which they say here, not paying attention to those rules damages the product even further. Fans want to see the tag ropes being used, and they don't want constant double teams throughout, which is what makes this a big weakness for the duo. And finally, Jim, number 1. This one you'll never get because I don't even know why they picked this. What's the biggest weakness of Jungle Boy?
Well, we mentioned he doesn't do promos. He said himself in public he runs when they want him to do a promo, which is, again, every wrestler since television was invented. If you come to them and say, let's do promo. Oh, yes. That's what they wanted to do more than anything else. This guy didn't want to do it. His size, but he's a young underdog baby face. So size doesn't have to be a disqualifier. Just beside, he has great personality in the ring. He has no personality when he's speaking or on camera doing an interview or he has to do his athleticism in the ring. That's his charisma. It's like he's another one of these guys that just sits in the corner and looks at his phone. That's the impression you get. Anything else? So did they label it charisma? Did they label it promo? Did they label it oomph? I don't know what.
Relies on others.
What?
It says here that his reliance upon others is his biggest weakness. At the moment, he always relied upon others in his matches, whether it be Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, or Marco Stunt. AEW has to be careful in not booking him this way too much. Fans want to be able to take him seriously at some point, and they've got a point there.
That's not his weakness. That's booking again. Every person on the list that they mentioned has weaknesses because of the booking, but we were trying to go with, besides Lance Archer, who I couldn't really think of a horrible fucking weakness, we're trying to go with what's wrong with that individual person.